Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Such.
And my name is a very tired James.
A very tired James. We've just been talking before we hit the record button about the trials and tribulations of James's away days.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Well, more often than not shit, but at least you won yesterday for all the effort of getting down to Southampton. The irony is Southampton's just not even that far away from London, but with the trains, with it being Christmas, that was a heck of a journey back, eh?
Well, Sunday night, 7 o'clock kickoff doesn't help. We get back to Waterloo and there's no tubes, and then it becomes can't get any cabs and night buses and getting the old man home first and all that jazz, and then not going to bed when I get home because I've got to watch all the highlights of yesterday's football, haven't I?
Was there many highlights? I don't know if it was through. There definitely was at the end of the Manchester derby.
There was at least one five-star performance yesterday, Such.
In the first half, indeed. I think, it's a very, I don't know, is it a weird feeling when you kind of won the game after 20 minutes and then you're just kind of sitting there going through the motions for the rest of the game?
Well, it beats the normal going into the last 10 minutes watching Spurs of clenching my bum cheeks, mate. So
yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people that once you were 4-0 up were thinking, right, let's get our money on a 5-4 Spurs defeat here because you'll get fair odds on that. But
I mean, at half time, you are thinking 9-0 and stuff like that, aren't you? Like,
yeah.
I'm thinking, our biggest ever away win 7-0, and thinking, well, we should do that. So, but I understand taking the foot off the pedal in the second half.
Well, it didn't help Russell Martin, the fact that you did, because as we've said, he's gone, right? Gary O'Neill gone.
Yeah, 2 managers sacked this weekend. That's going to feature heavily as part of our content tomorrow, which we'll tell you about in a bit. But I suppose we should cover the Arseman chip, Such, the mystery chip.
Yes, the Asman. That I don't know who's coined that phrase, but I've seen a few content creators talking about it, just calling it the Asman chip. So the assistant manager chip is out. James, do we know what the mystery chip is?
It's no longer a mystery, yeah.
No, indeed. Well, for some, it still is a mystery because
Yeah,
it's
a lot
so
of people, I
bloody
think,
confusing. And of course, we can't use it until Gameweek 24. We have not produced any content around it. Of course, plenty of the good content creators out there have done kind of guides to and some suggestions around it. You can find Harry or Andy or Scout, or they talked about it at the start of Black, but like loads of them. Everybody's had a kind of a bit of an explainer video or something around it. You're welcome to go and watch. I was super surprised by it when it was announced. Super surprised.
I first heard this mentioned quite a while ago.
I know on a show you'd said you'd heard that managers were going to get involved, and
I had heard that kind of as a rumor, but I didn't think
more than managers. But
I didn't think they'd do it because I don't think it makes sense for the guy who just wants to log on a Friday and pick his team or her team.
Yeah.
I think for the engaged community like us, I think it's good in the sense it gives us lots to strategize about, and strategic people should do. Doesn't guarantee it, but should do well out of the chip, I think. So if you're listening or watching this, it's not bad news. It's something you can use to your advantage and get one over in your mini leagues, etc., etc. So, but I'm for the masses, and I always say we're not the target market, right? It's the global game. I don't think that it makes sense.
Yeah, I think what I do like about that is that the potential for points is big.
Yeah,
you could easily see someone racking up 40, 50, 60 points off this chip. And when you're kind of quite far behind, maybe in some cases, it's a real good opportunity to think, okay, if I can get this right, then I can make up quite a lot of ground on mini leagues like you mentioned. It's just the fact that there are 4 or 5 kind of moving parts within the chip that I don't like. Firstly, you got to think, right, okay, 3 weeks, so I can't use any other chips during that period. So what's my chip usage? Budget. Now I've got to find money for a manager. Right. Top half team, bottom half team, point scoring. Then you've got your transfer count. Did I have any other transfers planned to make during that period? Team limit, like 3 players per team plus the manager now. So there's 4, 5, 6 different things to take into consideration, which, like you said, for us as engaged managers is good. And you can then have the upside of 60 points. But I was surprised because of the fact that there's so many things to consider that this is the route that they've gone down.
Yeah, we're going to kind of do a starter pod on it on Patreon tomorrow for our basic plus tier patrons and above. And then as we get towards game week 24, FA Cup third round out of the way and things like that, yeah, we're going to sit down and properly kind of deep dive in more detail. My initial instinct at this moment is it'll probably get used around a double game week towards the end of the season. So I'm chill about it.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it's easier to pick a team to win than it is to pick a player for goal involvement, is my thoughts around it. So if Liverpool had five fixtures over 3 weeks, I'm more likely to be able to pick Liverpool victories than I am Mo Salah goals, because the goals could be spread around other players and stuff. But that's still very early thoughts. I think I need to consider it. Yeah, or go rogue and just pick a lower half of the table team.
Well, you get more points if you beat a team that's 5 places above you, don't you? So
yeah, exactly that. And draw. I think you get more points if you draw with them as well. So worth considering, looking at who's still down at the bottom of the table that might be fighting and working their way back up, like a Manchester United, for example, or something like that, because they're still, I think they're 13th, 12th, 13th, something like that.
They won't be staying there.
No, of course not. But it depends where they are when you play the chip. That's the other challenge, isn't it? You can make all the plans you want. Someone goes on a run and suddenly...
The later in I mean, it's worth saying as well, the later in the season, the less likely a table is to change, right? Manchester United are 13th. It's not improbable that in 3 weeks they'll be 4th.
Yeah.
You're not going to jump from 13th to 4th in game week 36, right?
Yeah, exactly that. Good. We've had 9 games played so far. We've obviously got 1 to go today, which is Bournemouth against the massive West Ham tonight. I thought it worth giving a shout out just on West Ham. Antonio, James, obviously we spoke about it last week because it was only a week ago that he had his horrific accident. The latest from the club is that he should be home in time for Christmas.
Nice.
And it's a 7 to 12 month recovery. He won't be playing again this season, of course. And they say it's a 7 to 12 month recovery, after which point make decisions on football and what have you again. Sure. So at least get mobile and walking and running and all that kind of thing. But the good news is that he'll be out of hospital and home for Christmas at least, which at points was possibly not even likely. So yeah, good news for that. We'll see West Ham playing tonight.
A, that's really nice. And B, if we're saying there's even a chance that you could play again.
Yep.
Then that's great.
I mean, yeah.
More than some of us could have hoped originally, I think.
Exactly. Good. Cool. Should we go into our teams so we can give a bit of a rundown of the content for the rest of the week, including some managerless clubs?
We've both had a good game week,
yes.
Of which you had the better of it, Suj. So do you want to go
far,
first?
I mean, you still got Semenyo to go?
Yeah, so we've got the same to go tonight.
Semenyo still to go. So far, so good. It's the big boys that have been the flop, James. I think in any week where you get a green arrow and your captain blanks, you've got to take that. I've gone up 400,000 places from 950 to 550, give or take, which is a monster green arrow, actually, thinking about it. It's almost halved my rank. And it's the big boys in Palmer, Saka, Salah, the ones that haven't delivered. Palmer was my captain. I think the majority went of content creators or engaged managers went that way. I looked down the correspondence league, for example, and it was well over 70-80% had gone Palmer. It was only a couple of people that went with Salah in the end. And his blank didn't help. Obviously, Saka didn't return, and Salah was just the assist. But everywhere else was quids in terms of double-digit returns for Lewis Hall and Isak, Gabriel and Cunha on 9 pointers, Gvardiol on 7. That looked like another 15-pointer had they not pooed themselves in the final 4 minutes. Flecken, I didn't expect anything from Flecken, but a save point. He always chips away with the odd save points, does Flecken. I think you talked about it with Tom Med.
Honestly.
You talked about it with Tom Med on the Clash of the Correspondents. He's far and away the most saves in the table right now. So for his value at 4.5, like, what are we talking about? Is there clean sheets anywhere else? David Raya, but you're talking about 5.5 million quid versus 4.5 million quid. So even the people that were going towards the likes of Chelsea, Colwill, I know it's a defender, but there's no clean sheets there to be had. We talked about Brighton a few weeks ago as maybe Van Heck was the best option. No clean sheets there to be had.
They've
So
had a disastrous 4 games, really,
if
Brighton.
you're not really going to Arsenal or Liverpool, and Liverpool obviously Alisson Kelleher was the mix around. There's no other goalkeepers. There's no good goalkeepers in this game, to be honest with you. So Flecken with chipping away with threes and fours is fine for me, to be honest with you. And João Pedro's been a flop since I've owned him as well.
It is worth saying. I feel like one of the learnings from last season, particularly around sort of like Jordan Pickford for many people last year, was like pick your poison and stick with it with a
But
goalkeeper
this is what I'm doing,
a little
right?
bit. Yeah, I get it. I
And
get it.
there's no reason to move off right now. I'm fine with him sitting there. I've got other moves that I'd rather make. So yeah, 68 points with Semenyo to go is a gaming rank of 300k. I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, I want to get back inside the top 500,000 consistently. The
Are you back in it
cloud,
now?
not yet. If Semenyo does okay, I will be. If so long as Semenyo gets more than kind of 7-8 points, I think I should be.
As long as.
Yeah. West Ham will be very obliging. I have no doubt. I've predicted a 3-1 Bournemouth win in that today, so we shall see. The cloud on the horizon for me is Mateus Cunha.
Um, I don't want people to take words literally, but I would be fairly astonished if he doesn't get suspended.
Mm. Yeah. I've been looking at what I could potentially do. The move that I like, I've got 2 free transfers. The move that I like is Cunha to Raul Jimenez, which gives me enough money to go from Semenyo to Diogo Jota.
You can't be leave me Jota to myself, please.
No, I think that's the move I like at the moment. I like the Jota side of it more than I like the Jimenez side of things. But Jimenez has been ticking along fine.
And it's good timing for Jimenez. I mean, he's
Yeah,
playing a
the
team that's
fixtures are
really good
decent.
defensively at the weekend.
Oh, well, we shall see. So, yeah, I think that's the move that I'll potentially make. I do want to get some sort of confirmation on Cunha being suspended, though, before I pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Though I'm with you. I think it's highly likely. How's your team ticking along?
It's also worth saying on that as well. I know obviously the majority of teams aren't playing this week, but there are Carabao Cup quarterfinals. And certainly some of the teams, I would imagine Tottenham and Manchester United will go quite strong. I would imagine Newcastle against Brentford will go quite strong. So you likes of Isak, Bumo, got to get through this midweek as well. So I think in many cases, unless you've kind of rolled up a few transfers, probably hold tight for the minute, of which I've not. But then I was at free transfers when I free transfers when I made a move on Saturday night, such.
Already gone. You've
Yeah, I
already
did
gone.
I did one, just the one I did on Saturday. I sold that prick Ait-Nouri.
Okay.
He
Yeah,
had
yeah.
to
I mean,
go,
he's
didn't he?
suspended. Not only is he suspended, there's imminently another suspension as soon as he gets another yellow card, as soon as he comes back, potentially.
Well, he would, yeah, to avoid another one, he only needs to go 1 game without a yellow card, which he probably will, because then the next game he'd miss, I think, is Tottenham. Well, no, it's two
Right.
games he still needs to get through, doesn't it?
It's up to 19, Gameweek 19. So he'll miss 17 and then 18, 19. If he gets a yellow card in either of those, he'd
In
miss
in any case,
20.
Leicester this weekend is kind of the end of Wolves' good run of fixtures on
It
paper,
is,
and we
yeah.
know they're going to have a manager bounce, no doubt. But in terms of starting Ait-Nouri, you were looking away anyway after Leicester, so I think you only look away now. I bought Levi Colwill on Saturday night because I just think Chelsea's fixtures longer term are good. It's no frills. I'm not getting him in as a definitive starter. Probably looking at sort of like choice week to week between him and Lewis Hall, for example, once to get another defender in as well, because Pedro Porro's on the chopping block. That's what's in my mind, Suj, is Porro to Joachim Anderson, if he's available. If not, something else 4.5 and below. And then Semenyo to Jota. Yeah, I really want to get Jota in. I watched Liverpool Saturday as well. And he didn't look like a player who was just coming back from injury. He was great. He played in midfield actually. But
Yep.
he just is absolutely on it immediately. And I know Liverpool fans have been very much expectant for his return. I really wanted him at 5.5 at the start of the season. I definitely want him at 7.2 walking into Leicester in game week 18 with the amount of chances they've given up in their 3 games under Van Nistelrooy so far. They look more attackable now from a fantasy perspective than they did under Cooper, actually. 64 points for me so far. Um, Double Arsenal clean sheet, Ray and Gabriel for 15. The Newcastle combination of Hall and Isak 26. Jackson 8 pointer last night. I captained Mo Salah. for 10, so 64 points. Halved rank for me, back up to 37k. And most importantly, back above Clayton really quickly because he didn't have a great week. And our difference between us this week is essentially he's got no Newcastle,
Right.
and I've got them 26 points from Hall and Isak.
Yeah, the move from as soon as there was rumours that Watkins was potentially out or had a problem, I thought that move to Isak was quite straightforward. And what I liked about the Isak move was that there was two good fixtures, and then if I didn't like it, I could just move it on again. But he has performed, so quite happy with that. I'm really not hot on this Colwill. I get it where we're looking forward to fixtures. I spoke about this with Clayton on the differential show on Friday. They've kept 3 clean sheets all season, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Bournemouth, which they shouldn't have kept a clean sheet in because Bournemouth played well that night and Chelsea managed to get 1-0. West Ham, who were pitiful that day, so we'll give them that. And then Aston Villa as well, who were pitiful that day. So in and amongst that, they've been leaking goals. And it does feel a bit hindsighty to be, yeah, well, look, Brentford did score in the end yesterday. It was a late goal from Bomo, but yeah, I'm not feeling Chelsea defence at the moment.
No, I hear
I think
that.
they're going to continue to leak the odd goal here and there.
I think Chelsea fans would tell you that. I think Enzo Maresca has told you that again last night as well. My take was timing wise, just to fix the team at the moment, quite clearly with the fixtures they've got over the next sort of 6-7, if need be, I'm happy to play him in every game. And I've got defensive problems on. Poro's on a chopping block. Fass is out the Leicester team. Ait-Nouri suspended. Something needed to go in there now. Number one choice would have been just to go to Joachim Anderson first and foremost, Suj, but that's not a move I could make. Just go Ait-Nouri to Anderson now. So I had to make a different choice. So other ones that I looked at in terms of timing for this week, like Bournemouth, away to Manchester United this week, just didn't feel great, for
No.
example. So if I have to play Colwell for all of the next 6 or 7, yeah, do you know what? Probably only is two clean sheets in there or so, but it might start with one at the weekend because they're playing arguably the weakest attack in Everton, right? So he'll probably play for me at the weekend. That also means I don't need to force the Anderson move. I can maybe now go like Hyson to enable Jota, and I don't need to start Hyson now this week. So I prioritize that, something first and foremost for this week. So that would be the intention, is to play Levi Colwell this forthcoming week.
Cool. Good. Before we talk about the games, James, do you want to just let everybody know what the plan for content for the rest of this week is? We usually do this at the end of the show. So for people that don't quite make it 2 hours in or however long we ramble on for, we thought we'd bring it forward and just let you know now what you've got to look forward to.
So I organised, because I suspected it was going tits up with Wolves prior to the Ipswich game, because it looked to all the world last week after they lost to yourselves, such that they wanted to sack O'Neill but didn't have anything lined up. So he was staying for the time being. So I'd already organised to have Bradley Parker on the fan view tomorrow. We've shouted Matt Samuel overnight and this morning and said, do you want to join in our Southampton correspondence? So we're talking Wolves and Southampton on the fan view with Bradley and Matt tomorrow. Myself and Clayton on the Clayton and James show on Wednesday will include discussion on tonight's Monday night football, no doubt. Clash of correspondence this week is Villa against City with Lee Jackson and Johnny Pringle. Those two had difficult weekends. Ask James on Friday is probably going to be quite late in the day. Just to notify people, it's probably going to be about 2:30, 3 o'clock, we think, at the moment. My boy's finishing for Christmas and he's finishing early on Friday, so I need to think around that. Patreon podcast this week, Q&A today. Tomorrow, as said, we're going to have a bit more of a chat about this mystery chip. Tottenham Arsenal on Wednesday. We're asking Clayton if Arsenal need an open play coach to go with. I obviously need a set piece coach. Thursday, I'm going to do a quiz for Clates as well. And we'll have our Gameweek17 preview on Friday. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. If you're watching live or not live or on repeat, smash a like, hit the sub button. If you listen to an audio, 5-star review goes a really long way for us as well.
Perfect. Yes, indeed. If you do want to support the show over this Christmas period, busy period, and get a lot of additional extra content, all of the extra pods that James has talked about, the fixture planning spreadsheet, we have some prize leagues, we have a Slack community with hundreds of managers, well worth a go. You only need to join on a monthly basis, so come and try it out. If you like it, great. Stick around. If you don't, no
And
obligation.
for our existing patrons, you can gift Patreon now as well.
Can you?
as a
Didn't know
present.
that.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah, you can.
wow!
Yeah,
Christmas presents galore.
yeah.
Oh, bought you. I could just imagine someone bought to the other half. I bought you a Planet FPL membership for your Christmas
Try
present.
sticking that in the stocking, you bastards.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Good, good, good. Let's talk about some of these games. You did mention there that one of the worst attacking teams, Everton, are coming up against Chelsea this weekend, James. They did keep a clean sheet, though, going to the Emirates. Arsenal nil, Everton nil. Um, Frustrating for the Gunners here. I mean, they only had
Mm.
one big chance in the game. So it wasn't like they peppered Everton with chances throughout the game. They did obviously dominate possession as you'd expect them to. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen the brief highlights of this. It seems very much that Arsenal had a huge number of the boards, just under 80%, I think.
yep,
But in terms of the creativity, I mean, Pickford made one really good save from Saka, but it didn't have that kind of vibe of like agonising near miss or
no,
anything like that. And as per usual for Arsenal, a couple of, I mean, I was going to say bad results. They drew at Fulham and have drawn with Everton. And the social media Arsenal crowd, I think, are in meltdown, aren't they? The first tweet I saw this morning was someone saying that Arteta should be sacked. And I'm like, okay, cool. Your turn. You be the crisis club this week. Like, I've had enough of this. This can happen. We just know this historically with Everton under Sean Dyche. I know there's big criticism of him with Evertonians, but we've seen this so much with him at Everton and at Burnley that when you least expect it, Everton go, you ain't scoring today. And this looked like one of those. And I guess the criticism falls back onto Arsenal because since the 5 goals at West Ham, that's obviously now 3.5 games without a goal in the Premier League, unless that was scored from a corner.
right.
Now they scored 3 against Monaco in the Champions League last week and scored some open play goals and played some quite fast, incisive football. I understand, but many people probably were watching Man City at Juventus, so haven't seen that, which includes myself. So I think the question marks on Arsenal and whether they can sustain their title bid comes down to, well, are they going to score enough goals and create enough? Because obviously Odegaard is back now. So if you're looking at that, you go, well, where's the excuse in terms of the offensive stuff? I might give you another one, Suj. You know who didn't start for Arsenal this week?
Thomas Partey. And we talked about it as well. The games they've lost. We talked about it from a point of view of where they've lost, where he hasn't played in midfield, because he's played games at right back and they've still struggled as well. So yeah, missing from the team.
I think it's the incisiveness of line breaking passes between, if you will, kind of Partey's zone and Odegaard's zone. And then if you're slower in your build against an opponent like Everton, it becomes easier to defend. Now I know
I mean,
Partey
that
come on in the second
midfield,
half and he could have won a penalty as well.
the Everton midfield of Doucouré, Gay, and Mangala is physical and in your face. It might lack for technical ability, but if you look at that, it's almost like having three defensive midfielders in there. Doucouré does break forward and is more attacking, don't get me wrong, but he's got the ability to break up play as well. That's a tough midfield to get through if they decide you're not going to break us down.
Yeah. Again, Everton, the longer it goes on without that first goal, if you score early against them, say like my team did in game week 2, you'd end up winning 4-0. There's every chance. But the longer it goes on, the more encouraged they get. And I don't know if there's something psychologically for Arsenal at the moment in terms of like struggling. Martinelli and Trossard are not providing serious numbers. Raheem Sterling's barely getting involved at all. I've not seen a lot of the game from Saturday, but we saw last week Fulham kind of really shut down that Odegaard Saka axis. So if that's not creating hugely on that side either, then Arsenal do get dependent and reliant, I think, on the set play stuff. Now Everton are going to be one of the best at defending them because we've got some giants in that team at centre back and stuff. So it's a disappointing result for Arsenal. I think particularly as obviously Liverpool drop points as well. You think that's a chance to take advantage. Everyone at the Emirates would have been aware at half time, say that at least Robertson had been sent off and they were losing and
Yep.
thinking, what a chance. I don't know if that might have brought a bit of anxiety to the crowd, maybe. I don't think you're probably looking at Arsenal investment for fantasy at the moment unless you don't have Saka or don't have defensive. I still hugely encourage for people who don't have Arsenal defensive to invest in them in at least
Gabriel
one.
obviously back in the team, max bonus points here. He's picked up and
Yeah,
a
and
9 pointer.
Saliba lost
It's
a
tidy.
point last night as well.
Oof.
Saliba, Gabriel's price feels like someone's. If it was like real money, it'd get investigated for money laundering or something. Because it'd go back up again before the weekend. You'd be like,
Yeah.
someone's playing markets here. Yeah, Gabriel would be the one. Then I still think Timber over Saliba. Raya, you can obviously invest in. Saka, of course, if you want to go and get, I feels like most of us are already on. What I would say about Arsenal, we might have kind of a negative feeling at the moment, but their issue I think is easier to fix than arguably maybe Chelsea's. What I mean by that in terms of comparison, you've spoken about Chelsea and defensive issues. Solving that is more difficult, I think, than it will be for Arsenal just suddenly find the goals again. Because it's not that long ago, I think people got short memories. In January, they beat Palace 5-0. And afterwards, we were going, I know they won 5-0, but it was more like Palace were shocking. Arsenal didn't actually play that well. And then afterwards, from nowhere, following that, they went on a mad run of scoring goals. So we know that this group of players has that in them and can find it. We are early in the season. I still think they win the league. My opinion doesn't change still.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I just think looking at the fixtures coming up for Arsenal, they're tricky. Like Palace away, horrible place to go.
Oh, you
Ipswich
and any Arsenal fan should be delighted now if you go there and win 1-0.
Ipswich at home, I get it. But then Brentford away, we've seen what Brentford have been doing at their place. Brighton away, then it's the North London derby. So the games coming up are all winnable for Arsenal, but all carry a certain amount of jeopardy, I should say. I've got Gabriel and Saka. I'm not really desperate to add a third at the moment. And if I was, it would be Raya. I'm not looking at any Everton assets at all.
No, there's no reason to look at anything Everton other
No,
than there'll be people looking at Everton assets, I imagine, on their bench this week defensively going, oh, like my wife, why didn't I play Mikalenko? Well,
because he's
there's a,
going to the Emirates. Simple.
yeah,
He's going to the
but
Emirates.
can you imagine this conversation I'm going to have with my wife about the assistant managership? I'm literally just going to say to
Um,
her, just get him, isn't
all,
it? This is
all,
going to be
all
the
I
best thing to
heard,
do.
all I heard was if you want a Patreon podcast with James mansplaining the assistant manager chip to his missus, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL because that's ultimate Christmas Day content. Let's talk about Desmond at Anfield. Liverpool 2, Fulham 2. Fulham showing again that they're a good team, taking the lead twice. Liverpool having to come back. Now, understandably, yes, against 10 men for a large chunk of the game.
It's a strange game in the sense that I think both teams should be really happy with this. It's not often you'd feel like that at the end of a football match. I think for Fulham, they'd obviously be tinged with disappointment of not taking advantage, but obviously you'd start the day and you'd snap someone's hand off for the draw at Anfield. Most of us would. And they started the game ever so well. And even though you could say disappointing for Fulham not to win the game, like Liverpool, the effort they put into that with 10 men. For a lot of the game, Serge, honestly, it was unrecognisable that they were a man short, particularly in that second half.
Yep.
And Fulham came back and had a stronger period where you thought they might nick it again. They nearly did with Muniz. Really good performance from Fulham. They changed it up a little bit with Iwobi moving to the other side, to the left. Harry Wilson came into the team. Andreas Pereira came in and scored. He's suspended, by the way, for the game against Southampton. So for those with Emil Smith Rowe, he will almost certainly come back in the team. Um, good day for Fulham. Southampton at home this week. I feel like Jimenez is going to be really popular because of the people are going to walk into a Cunha problem here. Cunha's
Yep.
EO is really high within engaged players. People looking this weekend for a forward. If you can't get to like Isak or Jackson, you're looking around, you're going, oh, okay. Jimenez has got Southampton at home. Oh, he's got Ipswich at home in a few games more in game with 20 as well. That'll do. Back to Jimenez probably. I'd just give a little caveat that there's a chance at some point over that period he'll get rotated over Christmas, as we saw recently when he didn't start against Brighton. And Muniz is always liable to come on for him in the later parts of the
Yep.
games. So you can't expect 90, but yeah, 45 against Southampton might be enough for some people to seen last night. And there's a lot of talk of Alex Iwobi at the moment. It's not of interest to me, and I don't think any of those other midfielders are. I feel like they all have little streaky bits. It's not actually of any interest to me. I think there's more interesting players around about that value from other clubs at kind of the under 6 million bracket at the moment. But people will want to attack that coming into Southampton this week. 2 assists for Anthony Robinson, who was brilliant. It's not really many other words to put into it. It's absolutely brilliant. The sort of performance that would have had Liverpool looking at that and making calls for themselves, because I think they've got a left back issue.
Well, he got
So,
himself sent off, didn't he? So you've got a left back. But I know what you mean. Longer term,
well,
what is it that they look at? Because
that's not an issue for the weekend because Robertson will be suspended in the cup.
right, okay,
So Robertson can play at Tottenham at the weekend. Of course he can. Red cards are obviously immediate suspension. Accumulation of 5 yellow cards stands
same
within
competition.
Premier League, correct. Red cards can be over any competition that's domestic. So yeah, he was excellent, Anthony Robinson. And if people want to invest in that, I can't say no to it. It's not going to be for me because if I go Robinson, say instead of Porro, it's not enough for me to get Semenyo to Jota. So it was never going to be on. I needed two players that kind of under sort of like the 9 million bracket.
Mm.
So it was never really going to be on the table for me. And I like the idea of Anderson at 4.2 moving forward. The
Yeah, I was
two,
going to say with Anthony Robinson's at 4.8 now. He's got 6 assists this season so far, but no goals, and 2 of those assists have come in this game just now. Is his attacking threat worth the extra .6 over Joachim Anderson when Anderson's fit again? I don't know if I could justify that. Do you know that? I don't think I could
and
say that that added attacking threat for Anthony Robinson is worth .6 more
this,
than Joachim Anderson.
despite the fact we've praised Fulham on most podcasts, it feels like this season. You know, as a former Leno owner, they haven't kept many clean sheets this season.
Oh, mate, no, no.
He's got two assists at Anfield and walked away with a 6 pointer.
Yeah.
So yeah, but if people want to invest there, that's a more exciting fallback. And I guess there'll be people going Ait-Nouri again, timing wise, Robinson. Yeah, I think people have already made that move. I can completely understand. For Liverpool, the effort in that was incredible. It really was because Fulham were the better side for the majority of the first half and even 11v11. Fulham were the better side. They started really well. And the red card obviously forced some changes. By the way, do you think it was a red card or not?
Um,
It doesn't deny a goal
Probably.
scoring chance,
No, but last man. Maybe the chance hadn't happened yet and was going to happen.
but
It's because he's the
it's
last
called
man. It's not.
Dogso's denial of a goal scoring opportunity.
Is that the official line? Is
Yeah.
it?
It's not. It wasn't the sort of tackle that you go. Oh, it was like a. If it was on a halfway line, it's not a red card tackle, is it? It's a yellow card at worst under that circumstance. And he doesn't deny the goal scoring opportunity because the ball goes straight through to Jimenez.
Okay, I thought it was if you're the last man, regardless of the goal scoring opportunity, it's a red card.
No,
But if
because
it's
say he'd made that tackle, but Wilson kicked the ball towards the corner flag, i.e., to his right, not towards goal, but kicked it down towards the side where the camera is. Like he's not denying a goal scoring opportunity, is he? Because the ball's going towards the corner flag.
yeah, I get that. Okay, then harsh. Let's call it harsh then.
Yeah, strange one. Um, Slot acted on his feet. He put basically Gravenberch into centre back, and within possession had him stepping into midfield. He also had Trent from right back stepping in. I think what Liverpool decided was because Fulham's top outlet was Jimenez, and they've got a lot of players that are really good ball carriers. Like Iwobi's are like really good in terms of carrying the ball up the field, for example. I think what Liverpool decided was a lot was, well, if Fulham turn it high and have to go into Jimenez, we'll trust Van Dijk quite a lot to deal with that. And then we go really aggressive. So that's what I meant. So when Liverpool had spells of possession, you're looking at they don't feel like they're a man short. Sometimes you watch teams who are good sides who have 10 men and are trying to play against a team like that. And you think they can't find the pass because there's nothing spare. Liverpool never felt short because they overcommitted. And it maybe helped them the fact that they were losing at the point of the red card rather than winning and then like,
Winning.
okay, what do we do to hold on? So really aggressive, really impressed with Slot. Every time I watch them, I become more impressed with him, by the way, in
Mm.
terms of his ability to tactically change things. And they created a vibe where it can be like that at Anfield. We think, well, we're going under here. And I'm sure there's Fulham fans were thinking at the end, geez, probably quite happy with the draw. And Liverpool fans should be monster proud of the effort from the players to recover from a bad start in the game and then do so well with 10 men. Disappointing fantasy return for Mo, but that's where we're at with him now. That a 5 pointer for Mo feels like a
Yeah,
disaster.
crazy.
That just speaks volumes of how good he is. And on a different day, he'd have got a couple of returns here as well. No concerns from that perspective. As you know, hugely keen to get Jota in, and I was before I saw him Saturday. And like I said, he looked on it. So I want to get back to a midfielder in and around that bracket. Timing wise, feels very good. On a side note as well, the intention is to captain Mo Salah
I was
at the
going to ask you
weekend.
that question. He plays your team, and there are other players that have decent fixtures this weekend as well. You could maybe argue Cole Palmer goes to Everton, but then you've just seen them block out Arsenal, so that kind of makes me a little bit tetchy with maybe going with Cole Palmer this weekend. Isak is away at Ipswich. He's just had a decent return, so he's another consideration for
Hmm.
captaincy. But as
Is
it stands, I'm with you. My bus captain is actually Mo Salah.
is Newcastle away like a do we call it a Newcastle away tax? Should we have that as a thing?
Don't captain them when they're playing away.
Well, yeah, I probably wouldn't do that
You know how
actually.
we've just gone from a weekend of amazing home fixtures. My front seven, all away: Chelsea, Bournemouth, Arsenal, Liverpool, Brighton, Wolves, Newcastle. All
Yeah,
of those players.
my whole team's away this week basically. It was all at home this week, so
The only one that I've got at home is Flecken at home to Nottingham Forest. Everyone else, you're right, is away this weekend. I'll be captaining Salah. I'm
yeah,
pretty
I
sure.
just think Palmer. I think it's between Palmer and Salah again. I mean, Saka at Palace doesn't feel
No,
great. Captain Isak away from home's a no. Tottenham are playing Liverpool, so if you were suddenly thinking like a Tottenham attacker, I don't think you're doing that. Haaland's at Villa, so it takes them two, I think, off the table as well in terms of interest. So I think it's between Palmer, Salah again, and I just think when you play Everton, there's a chance that you could captain someone who don't have a chance. I was really wavering on captain Salah prior to the Everton game. You know, I kept saying it for
mm,
weeks
yeah,
about
yeah.
having Watkins against
Last game at
Southampton.
Goodison and all that. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think there's still that Everton away just doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like a great game for captaincy. Salah is 100% going to have chances against Tottenham.
yeah.
Like I cannot foresee how that doesn't mean my team might not even beat Liverpool, but the idea that Mo Salah won't have a chance in the game feels unthinkable to me. So yeah, I'll be captain Mo, despite what I saw last night was better. But
But
I know what it was against.
the player we won't be captaining, we just mentioned, is Isak, though he did return with a goal and an assist in a lovely 4-0 win. It felt like going back to game week one, James, with Lewis Hall and Jacob Murphy in among the points. I think we both started with them in game week one. A bit late, but I'll take the Lewis Hall points all day long.
Yeah, debatable.
What, the
Um,
assists?
yeah, I think.
I think 100,000% there were assists, and all his points are 100% valid. And if you don't own him, tough.
Did you see James Madison's tweet last night?
No,
So
I don't know if I follow him on Twitter.
he put a cross in for the second, which then got flicked on, and
Yeah.
Son scored at the back post. And so Madison's put a tweet out. Was like, yeah, well, Son was my intent.
Intended.
He quote tweeted the official FPL tweet of the goal, and
Yeah.
just tweeted and said, "Son was my intended destination."
Yeah.
I think the reason Hall gets this one is because he is playing it to an area of around about the 6 yard box, and there's no other Newcastle player there. So that's why he's got away with it. But I do think the easiest thing to do here, honestly, just again for everybody and their understanding is if cross goes into the box and someone scores, give it to them. Or you go down a route where you say, if there's a deflection, no one's getting it.
Yeah. If anyone
Because
else touches it, forget about it.
there's too much ambiguity. Is that the word, Sush?
Yep.
Thanks. It didn't sound right when I said it.
Uh,
There's too much where people, oh, is it going to be? Is it going to be? I saw one replay going around on socials during the game, and I went, oh, he's not getting that assist. Then I saw a different replay, and I thought, oh, yeah, he probably is actually because there's no one else in that zone. So I think they need to do something with that. Whether it's going to be they go to opt to assist, and I know they're always keen for the game as well, and people following on socials that they kind of announce straight away who's got the assist. Everyone wants to know straight away who got the assists. Shout out Tom and Sam. So, but I do think they need to do something with it because most people, again, it's one of them. I have to sit down and properly explain why Bumo didn't get it, why Hall did get it, why Madison didn't get it last night. The Madison one's definitely right not to get it, but
I think the thing with Opta is obviously that when you win a foul for a free kick or whatever, they don't count in Opta rules, do
it
they? So
but Madison actually has a point when you think about it.
yep.
Like, who's to say that if he crossed that ball in and he generally maybe was looking for Sun and he's underhit it, well, you can read players' minds now. So
Yeah, it's too but you're
it does
right in
feel
that
like
it's
there's more of a case to say if you cross it into the box and someone scores, just give it or don't. Feels just feels a bit cleaner, I think.
depends how many kind of touches or who the deflection came off, all that kind of thing. But talking about the game overall, like Newcastle dominated. It's very rare that the XG matches the scoreline, but 3.79 to 0.19 is basically 4-0, and that's exactly what it was. 27 shots, over 600 passes for Newcastle, dominant, absolutely dominant.
Yeah, and a few interesting fantasy notes on this. So I think Hall probably we can get by now. He's the one to go and get, and he'll be a difficult one for people to bench if they've got benching dilemmas going into this week. And I presume Ryan Ait-Nouri possibly helps with that for many. My intention will be to start him at Ipswich despite their away form.
Me too.
That's the one to go and get defensively. Anthony Gordon with an assist is possibly a little bit underwhelming because they won 4-0. But again, back on the left looked better. Possibly could have had more in the game. I got asked on my deadline stream about Jacob Murphy. I don't know if you saw this, Suj. Someone on my
No.
deadline stream asked me about Jacob Murphy and whether they should start him. And I burst out laughing
Yeah, I think you
because,
said it's game week 1 again or something like that.
yeah, that's exactly what I said. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that it was game week 16 and someone had him. I did say, like, if you're there, then it's game week 1 again. Like, play him, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he has obviously returned well. He's got a
But look, he's
13.
4.9, right? Someone might have had him as bench fodder, third on the bench, or just left it and just decided never to solve that problem.
There's every chance that person hasn't used a wild card and it's still been sitting there.
Mm,
Yes, it is a possibility. Wasn't he 5.5 at the start of the season, though, Serge?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
4.9
he
right now.
was. That's hemorrhaging
4.9.
value. I don't think that's
Wait,
the
I don't
one.
think he's going to go much lower down, to be honest with you. It's the same price as Enzo Fernandez, for
No,
example. Are you going to go
I'm
Enzo or?
saying it has been hemorrhaging value. You've lost zero point 0.6 on him.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't want to lose zero point 0.6 on a player in this game, right?
No.
Don't go there. There's others at around about that price that are better picking up. Is he decent value on the face of it at 4.9 as a right winger playing for Newcastle? Yes, absolutely. But I do think they were better at similar prices than him. Isak has done great, hasn't he?
In this game or in general?
Well, just recently.
5 returns in the last 3. And looking now at the season, 7 goals, 4 assists. Yeah, he's ticking along nicely.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back over the last
He's missed 3
six.
games. He's missed 3 starts this season as well.
Yeah, so it's 3 double-digit hauls in his last 5 starts. So it's pretty good. I know a few people came off because of the doubts after he came off. Sorry, I say starts. He came off early against Crystal Palace. So he's from 6 starts, but he only played 20 minutes. There were a number who sold there are probably trying to figure out how they're going back now, I suppose.
Yep.
Callum Wilson injured again for a prolonged period. So I don't think that has a huge impact on Isak's minutes because if they do want to give him a break, they can always go Barnes left and just play Gordon through the middle. But I think it makes you feel a little bit more secure about minutes. He's only played 72 here because the game is won. So at that point, yeah, of course, absolutely. Wrap him up in cotton wool. I did see a few people captain him this weekend. Those that did very well done. His XG was big, 1.42 in the
Mm.
game. Leicester got absolutely mauled. This could have been more. I suspected they were in big trouble going into this one because Samari was suspended and Wilfred Ndidi is injured. Now, Wilfred Ndidi is going to be injured for a little bit longer. And I think those two at least have the ability for them to retain and they're good dual players. I look at Chowdhury's basically not played all season and Oliver Skip going into midfield because Harry Winks has had a problem as well recently. And I thought they're going to get this well
That's
done over
so
in
light.
midfield. Exactly that.
Yeah.
So They've given up. I think the stat. I'm going to quote this wrong, but I saw something like 50 shots um, in the box over the 3 games so far
Wow. Under
from West Ham, Brighton, and Newcastle against Van Nistelrooy's Leicester.
ooh.
So it's a shame that Cunha's suspended, probably going to be suspended this week because if he's not, you don't want to sell that.
Yeah,
I
I
would
get that.
suggest you would want to keep it for one more. Yeah, I'm quite underwhelmed on Leicester. So I know that 4 points, the victory against West Ham, the late comeback against Brighton, it's had this kind of feel good thing. They didn't want Cooper there, but they feel more open now, and I don't think they've got the quality. And I think they might have come from a position where we're not sure that we wanted to attack them from a captaincy perspective. And I'd look at them now and go, yeah, we do. Because I think, say, game week 18, Palmer at home to Fulham, Haaland at home to Everton, Saka at home to Ipswich, I'd have gone, there's great alternatives. Yeah, Mo will have it best again. Leicester at home.
Without a doubt, indeed. And look, they're still not in the relegation zone, but it's creeping ever closer because Ipswich managed to pick up the points away at
They
Wolves. There's
do
only
have some. They do have some good talented players like El Canoes has quality. Buonanotte didn't start.
Penalties, all
He'll
right.
probably
Yeah.
come back into the team. Vardy is going to tick over for goals. We know that. So I'm not saying they don't have quality, but I I I don't know what the thinking is where it's like they've become more open and you've got Cody and Vestergaard at centre back. Like, what is
The
that?
third highest in terms of goals conceded now. Wolves are at 40, Southampton 36, 34 for Leicester. They're just leaking too many goals.
They brought Caliber Collie on during the game as well. I wonder if they might consider a back three at times as well. There is a note on that. I wouldn't be surprised if, say, when they go to Liverpool, if they play a back five,
Yep.
is that going to stop Liverpool? But probably not.
Ipswich 2, Wolves 1. Well, I should say it the other way around because Wolves were the home team there with Gary O'Neill now gone. Ipswich touching distance of getting themselves out of the relegation zone because they're only 2 behind Leicester now, albeit a late win. I don't know if they hadn't got the late winner, whether or not Gary O'Neill would have gone, or whether or not we'd have seen the scenes that we did at the end with everything kicking off. But regardless, I mean, Ipswich going to be super happy to get 3 points on the board.
Yeah. Firstly, on Wolves, I mean, look, again, to repeat, if you're a Cunha owner, you probably do want to wait on the information because if you sell when he's playing Leicester at the weekend, I think you'd be gutted if you sell, actually, despite all the problems they've got, potential manager bounce, all that stuff. Actually, United,
Why you think a
Tottenham,
manager is going
Forest.
to be announced by the weekend?
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the latest. This is from Ben Jacobs. I'm literally reading a tweet 20 seconds from speaking to you. Vitor Pereira is currently finalising personal terms with Wolves, and the expectation is the deal will be closed today. He's currently manager of Al Shabab in the Middle East. He was formerly manager of Porto. I don't think he's been manager at a club for more than a year, or at least he averages less than a year. Basically, you'll come in, they're going to run around like madmen for 3 months, and then we'll get to like September, and it will be a car crash again, probably.
Okay.
But that's the guy they've chosen, and that news seemed to come about fairly quickly yesterday. So I think that was what I said to you after they lost at West Ham. It was like they don't know what they're doing. They've
They
obviously
spent a week
identified
figuring it out. Yeah.
this is the fella. So I think maybe even if they'd won on Saturday, they might have gone, "Thank you very much. Smile on your way out the door." I mean, I've not seen many Wolves fans who were particularly disappointed at the news that O'Neill's gone. I think the Everton defeat was, yeah, straw the boat,
Bad.
camel's back. Like you could beat 4-0 at an Everton team that could look like they couldn't score goals. Then you've got them fighting after the West Ham game. You've got fighting after this game. I mean, it's a mess, isn't it?
Big
Well and
time.
truly mess. Ait-Nouri, I think he's going to go down in kind of legendary status, like a bit of a cult hero, or should we call it a cult failure? I cannot believe I'm looking at his points. I bought him. I think after he scored at Brighton, I think I want to say that would make sense. Going into game week 10 was the start of their run. I bought him at 4.5. I sold him on Saturday at 4.7, having with him having gone up to 4.9. And over that period, he scored 11 points in
Wow.
FPL across 7 game weeks. What a boy. But we'll take that 0.2. I can't completely slag him off because he's nicked me some value, which at some point is going to be a decision later in the season. I could thank Ryan Ait-Nouri for that
You can use it
transfer.
on your assistant
Yeah,
manager, James.
yeah, absolutely. I saw Pete FPL team
Yeah.
tweeted that yesterday, didn't he? He's like, I've set up the because you can plan on FPL team, which we highly recommend using the assistant manager. And he's like, I've got to change two of the managers already. It's like the Premier League waiting for this chip to come out. If Cunha suspended it to sell, I think as well, that's not going to be a 1 game ban.
No.
He's elbows the fella in the back of the head, which made him turn round. Then when he's turned around, he's got hold of him, he's took his glasses off his face. I don't know if I've ever seen that before on a football pitch.
It's bizarre. Bizarre. They've clearly lost their heads. I mean, if you remember at the end of the game against us when Lamina was having at it with Jared Bowen. I mean, Jared Bowen, it's the kind of guy like you. I don't know how anyone would ever want to fight that guy. He's so nice. But Lamina clearly was pretty pissed off throughout the game as well. It's just not right there
No,
with everything. And it can bleed onto the pitch.
I think what he wanted to do in the last few games, because I think some of the team selections over the last couple were quite bizarre. I think what happened to him, I think the Mosquera injury is a really important kind of pinpoint of Wolves this season because I think that injury kind of enabled them not to be able to be a bit braver in terms of like the kind of defensive position of their line when they're defending. And naturally, when you're putting the likes of Dawson in, like Dawson was great in terms of defending your penalty area and stuff, putting him on the halfway line, he's in massive trouble. And he's been out the team the last few, and I think it's that. I think he wanted to go down a last kind of hurrah of this is truly what I want to do with this team. So I'm going to pick the players I've got that's most suitable for that. Then that backfires as well and goes badly. Yeah, inevitable conclusion, unfortunately. I really felt that because their fixture list was so bad, he deserves the chance to have this run of these games. You can't be losing 4-0 to Everton, getting beat at West Ham, and then lose at home to Ipswich. And then after that start, are they like 3 wins since February or something?
It's awful. If you look back at his record longer term, and we talked about the lack of clean sheets and stuff, it's pretty poor, and no surprise that he has gone. Still going to be a tough mountain to climb for Wolves to get out of the relegation zone now, but let's see what the new manager can do.
Just
With
briefly
Ipswich,
for Ipswich, great
see you in
victory.
see you in February is what we talk about with Ipswich, mate, because their fixture run: Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea, Fulham, Brighton, City, Liverpool. That's a horrible 7 fixtures now.
Yeah.
But then when they get to February, Southampton. Then they go to Villa, Spurs, Man United straight after that. So, yeah, it's a horrible longer term run, even up until March, really, for them.
And it will get off to a difficult start this weekend because Liam Delap is suspended.
But having getting a booking while on the bench as well. God.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, his booking was for an argument when he was on the bench, James. It
Oh,
wasn't while
okay.
he was
Was it
playing.
was it him that pissed off Ait-Nouri?
Oh, could well have been. Who knows?
I mean, he completely lost his head as well. So Lewis Hall narrative into this weekend. No Delap. Obviously, Hurst is unavailable for Ipswich as well. So I'm not quite sure what they'll do with that 9 position, but keep an eye on FPL Tractor's tweets on Blue Sky and Twitter or X because he'll have his predicted lineup out as per usual towards the weekend. I don't know. They might play their Chaplin or Hutchinson as a false nine. But they've got the other lad, Al Hamadi, is it? Might play up front, possibly. Anyway, that probably bodes well for Newcastle because Delap is a handful, and you see that again on his
Yep.
first goal. He kind of bullies off Semedo. O'Neill was critical of Semedo. The Wolves fans will tell you don't play a wing back at like centre back. Might help you. Semedo's Wolves captaincy reign might last all of 1 game through no fault of his own. I think if you've got Leif Davis, that's okay to hold. But I suspect now the fixtures are turning, you might have your eyes diverted to other things like an Anthony Robinson, for example. But he might be useful for you again later in the season. So if you've got value held, I wouldn't stress about that. The Lapid's probably a move on. considering the suspension and then the difficult fixtures afterwards. Again, Jimenez, if you don't have money in the bank, is probably going to be the one that lands for people. Really big win for Ipswich because I kind of said they had to win one of them two home games against Palace and Bournemouth, and to take none out of it was a blow. So this was really, really important ahead of these fixtures to come.
Yep. Nottingham Forest 2, Aston Villa 1. If you'd said to Forest 16 weeks in, you're going to be above Manchester City in the table, I think they'd have all thought we were doing shots of vodka.
It's even more bonkers when you think back to what I said before City played Forest, where I went, Forest is the perfect opponent for City.
They won 3-0 comfortably.
It makes it even more bonkers, doesn't
yeah,
it?
Yeah. But goals, I mean, just look at their goals conceded 19, goals scored 21. It's very tight in terms of their goal difference. Where you look at all the teams above them are well into double digits goal difference. It's only +2 for Forest, but they have a way of winning games. They're never crazy games. You're not getting like 4-0s and whatever, but they just chip away, winning goals by a game, and they've done well here again. If you look at all of the stats as well, I mean, they've basically, I wouldn't say battered Villa, but 17 shots, higher XG coming up to 1.8 versus
a lot of it
not
at
even
the
a
end of
half.
the game, it's worth saying.
Yep, understandable, but more possession. Not more passes. Possession was fairly even, but more passes completed. Yeah, and a home game. So each and every week.
I think
Chris
Forest.
Wood as a Cunha replacement was on my mind. Not going to lie.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Brentford, Tottenham, Everton, Wolves. I know 3 of those 4 are away. But yeah, I think Cunha owners will first and foremost be looking Jackson, Isak. But then if they can't, they're looking down. If I was a Cunha owner and didn't have the money, I think I'd be going Chris Wood. I think so. And escaped for us non-owners.
We talked about Raul Jimenez even further down, but that gives you even more money in the bank.
I think I'd go Wood because kind of what we spoke about him before in terms of that clear talisman. He blanked at the weekend. It was unusual to have Forest win and him not damage my FPL rank, but he's obviously fractionally offside he's not. I think Elanga was fractionally offside on the disallowed goal, which, by the way, the camera angle will play illusions with people's minds. I know a lot of people were just adamant that it wasn't offside. I agree. I hate VAR. You don't need to tell me. But I imagine they put the lines together and it probably is correct. So yeah, Wood. I mean, Wood is the only Forest asset offensively to look at. Defensively, you can look at the guys at the back. Sells in goal is reasonable if you're looking for an enabling keeper. Murillo and Milenkovic. Milenkovic has now scored in 2 in a row. I probably would prefer that one of the centre backs over Ola Aina. Williams you would avoid at this stage. Moreno is available after ineligibility, though no guarantee you'll come back into the team. But the left backs should be avoided, or Williams can play left back, I should say. I think one of the centre backs over Ola Aina. Nothing offensively for me other than Chris Wood. That next set of 4 fixtures, admittedly 3 of them are away, but they're decent. They're decent fixtures. You've got Southampton at home in 22, not long after that as well, after they got Liverpool at home in 21. So yeah, if you want Wood, I'm not going to give any reason to say no. Controversies. Do you think it was a foul on Matty Cash, firstly?
I hadn't seen it, so no comment, I'm afraid.
I think most of the time it is, but VAR is not going to intervene on that.
Because of the high bar?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, there's not any kind of. It's one of them. We spoke about it after the Wolves Southampton, the Cunha goal a few weeks ago. No kind of, I haven't kicked you. I haven't used my hands on you. It's not getting given. I've kind of just forcefully put myself in the way and stepped across you. Yeah, it probably is a free kick, but VAR was never going to overturn that. You seen the Rodgers penalty incident?
No, I didn't see that either. I didn't see any of the highlights from this game, I'm afraid.
Not a penalty. What? I know it's going to upset some Villa people because clearly, I think it was Anderson. Pulls Rodgers kind of on the wrist. Rodgers gets into the box and Anderson is still pulling him. Like Rodgers' arm is outstretched backwards. Anderson's pulling at his wrist. 100% that is a foul. 2 reasons why it's not. Rodgers dives the wrong way. It's completely unnatural how Rodgers goes down. And that's how VAR will interpret that. They'll interpret the way his body, he kind of goes down. He should go the other way. The way he goes down is not normal. Secondly, in the build-up, Rodgers fouls Anderson. So Rodgers, as they're coming together and Rodgers running past him, Rodgers got his shirt gripped as he's running past him. So if VAR looks at that, they're going to go, well, actually, we
Same
could
phase
just
of play.
we could just give Forest a free kick here. So you're not going to get it, and that's going to make some Villa fans angry.
Very
But
nuanced, those kind of little
I
decisions like that.
must because people know I like to take the piss all the time. But please tell me you have at least seen Emi Martinez save.
No, I haven't seen any highlights from this game, I'm afraid.
It's one of the greatest saves you'll ever see, Serge, honestly.
I can't tell whether you're being sarcastic
No,
or
I'm being 100% serious.
the Forest.
It's staggering. Corner cross comes in, gets flicked on. I think it might have even been Milenkovic again headed it. I can't remember. And it's kind of down right at him, kind of just to the side of his left foot. And
Yeah, see it.
he manages to get his hand down, but not only does he get his hand down, he kind of flicks it on the line back into play. It's staggering. It's one of them moments that you're kind of transfixed. You just want to keep watching it over and over again. How? Unbelievable
Uh,
save.
there's Nuno. I feel like is it similar to? Do you remember when David Seaman made the save where he scooped the ball from behind him and managed to reach it and flicked it
This is
out
better.
because it's
This is
low down?
yeah. It's harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Seaman one is an incredible save from that semi-final. I think it was in 2003 against Sheffield United. But it's just the arm work.
Right.
This is the body work. It's down by like your foot. You've got to get down there and do it and have the
And flick it
awareness.
out.
It's not even Siemens is a whole hand out, and obviously that needs more power. But he's done it with fingers. Incredible save, batshit crazy madness. And I saw Villa fans a couple of weeks ago. I saw someone tweeting about he made a save against Juventus, which was a really good save, and people like that'll win save of the season. I think that ain't a big deal. Yeah, this one was. That is a
Well,
staggering save.
nice. I know
Absolute
Robert
madness.
Sanchez made a great save yesterday as well, but um, maybe a bit more
And then of
routine.
course Martinez threw one in afterwards. No,
Oi,
quite
oi.
unfortunately, but he'll be disappointed he didn't save it. I love the fact that he then collided with the post afterwards and had his sympathy vote of please give me some treatment. Yes, you had your heroes moment. Well done, mate. Villa assets. City at home next. Newcastle away. Tough couple of games, obviously. Brighton at home afterwards as well. Then there's a better run for Aston Villa that starts with Leicester in game week 20. Watkins, if you've got, is going to be difficult not to sell. I said that to you going into this week. We spoke about it weeks ago. You're going to get the 16 and want to sell something else.
Hmm.
You did. I think you've got no regrets over that.
None
I
whatsoever.
think as well,
I'd sell
Duran has,
Rodgers as well if I could.
Duran has started and scored again.
If someone came out to me this week and said Watkins is out longer term or something did happen, I would go to Duran over Wood, over Raul Jimenez, over all of them. If I knew Watkins was out for 2 or 3 weeks or longer term, but I mean, that's not the case because he's come on off the bench here. So
You'd be tempted. Yeah, granted. I can't argue that. Defensive ones, it's the same as Lee Jackson always tells you. Go and read his bio on Twitter if you don't believe me. Yeah, I think if you're a Watkins owner, it's probably a sell. On Rodgers, it depends what I do. So like, if I end up buying Jota this week, I'm going to start him against Tottenham, no doubt. But I'm quite comfortable starting Rodgers against City. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks.
yep.
I think this could be a great game for him. Could just City got no legs in that area on transition, and he's one of the best ball carriers essentially in the league at the moment. Like the power of him and stuff, he might really do some damage to City. So
So here's a question for you then, because I'm in the same boat. Semenyo with Manchester United away, or Rodgers with Man City at
I'll
home
be playing Rodgers.
over
Subject to
Semenyo.
Semenyo might change my mind tonight. I'm not going to promise that he
Okay,
won't. But if I had to lock him right now, I'm playing Rodgers against City.
over Semenyo.
Yeah.
Interesting, because there'll be a few with that dilemma or similar players to have an A or B over.
And it's worth saying as well, there'll be people with Rodgers looking at Enzo Fernandez, Amad Diallo, other players, Jacob Murphy, that you can look elsewhere at other players and might be thinking of selling him. And that's also fine. I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if Rodgers does well this weekend. And it
Yep.
might be, like I said, if I buy Jota, then I'm obviously playing Jota over Rodgers quite clearly. But I'm not, oh, it's City. It's not even just a City thing. I just think it's great, particularly for Rodgers, actually, this game.
Let's go to the Sunday games, James. There's four to cover off, and plenty still to chat about. The big one, the derby, well, the
Rivalry.
rivalry, the M23, and all that ends up that Eagles shit on Seagulls, which I don't mind because Seagulls I hate. Everybody knows that.
Uh,
Um,
so just per usual, for people who've never listened to us before, just clarify, you don't have like a Brighton hatred thing.
no, 10%. 10% of me hates Brighton just because their mascot is a seagull. It's nothing to do with Brighton, the place, the people, none of that. Just, I don't like seagulls. I think it's the worst animal on the planet. But Crystal Palace 3-1. I'm surprised by this. They've kind of slowly and surely got their way out of trouble. They're a couple of points behind us, West Ham now, looking at it. They're just edging away nicely. And that's despite not having everybody fit as well.
Forgive me, I was trying to watch this game on the train to Southampton yesterday, and the most I saw of it was buffering. But I did catch enough, I think, to know that Crystal Palace deserved their victory. And I think this is just a quite straightforward case of get your best players on a pitch and shit starts getting better. Palace have had some injury issues this season. They've
Owen
basically
Ketcher
got,
still.
he's not in their best 11, mate.
Yeah, potentially not. No,
And
Wharton
and I
still in
think that was a
midfield.
failing earlier in the season. And I think Glasner didn't help himself when he said that. He said basically, we as a football club, Palace, is not going to spend this amount of money on a player and not start him. But the structure of that team works much better with Mateta and Eze and a flyer. And the flyer is Ismaila Sarr, who shout out to Rory McLaughlin Dowd, who on Friday caught, I think, a number of us quite by surprise when he quite clearly said Sarr over Eze, no doubt. Like if you wanted to invest in a Palace player, and the amount of conversations we've had within the community, I think, of midfielders under 6 million over the last couple of weeks. And there's a handful of people that would have shouted out Ismaila Sarr, yes, my friend, late riser. I know you were one of them, my friend. But Rory was clear on it. He was like, yeah, Sarr will be the best Palace attacking asset to go and get at the moment. And I was like, you sure? You wouldn't just pay the extra for Eze? He's like, no, it's Sarr.
If you look
And
at it, I mean, it's so punty. If you go back to game week 7, so what's that? Nine game weeks, and he's pretty much started all of them bar one. He's returned in two. So you're looking at it thinking, all right. For me, I look at Sarr and I'm like, there's no doubt in ability even when he was at Watford, but there's no track record of consistency to justify. Having said that, he's also in a Palace team that have only won, including this weekend, 3 out of those games. Right? They've basically drawn and lost all of the others. So if there's a turn in form and they can start scoring goals again, sure. But I haven't seen anything from them up until maybe the last few weeks where there is any kind of turn in form. Scoring 2 against City is no joke. Scoring 3 against Brighton as well, not bad at all. So maybe there is now goals coming into this team.
yeah, settled team now. And I think it's not now. Let's be real. Like chasing Ismaila Sarr's points playing against Arsenal this week is probably not the way to go. But I would say, look, couple of games here, Arsenal at home, maybe Bournemouth away to monitor this. Because once you hit game week 19 and the Southampton home game, you will want to have a look at Palace. And it might be something like, you're frustrated with a Semenyo, for example. It might be that the best course of action, rather than saying, well, it's Fulham have got Southampton this week, so I want to go with Iwobi, you might find that a better course is maybe it's patience and maybe it's Ismaila Sarr in game week 19. You're not going to buy that now when you're playing Arsenal. I know people will because it's just hold and stuff, but that doesn't make sense to me. Give it a bit more time. Rory's theory was very much right. Eze is a creative hub. We know that, right? And Mateta can run in behind, but he's a battering ram that Palace can use. Sarr is in a central role where he can go and run beyond and essentially basically play and join Mateta in a front two. So, yeah, very worth watching. Rory was absolutely right to highlight that. I think defensively, I've been saying this for weeks, that back three is settled now. Another note on Sarr as well is, though, Munoz is suspended against Arsenal next week.
Yep.
I think ordinarily the solution to that for Palace at the moment is, under that circumstance, just to play Sarr.
Wing back.
Now, against Arsenal, we might not want to do that as well because what's the best way of hurting Arsenal? Maybe we might be inviting them on and think of Jimenez's goal against
Counter.
Arsenal. and then use Sarr in that sort of that channel, right? So I don't know what they're going to do in terms of wing back. I guess because it's Arsenal, they'll probably play Klein, I think, rather than move Sarr into that position. But that obviously makes them a little bit weaker going into the next one. But defensively, they're strong now. Lacroix is beginning to really look like a player. He's quick, he's aggressive, he's good in the air. That complements well with um, Gay and who playing right-sided centre back. I've had a mind blank. So Chalobah,
Chalobah.
who scored. Thank you. To the right-hand side, that's a strong back three. I was saying this to my dad when we attempted to put the game on. I was like, these are 17th. No one thinks these are in trouble. That said, I didn't particularly think they'd go and win at Brighton, but they deserve to do so. And for Brighton, as I said earlier, like that's an alarming 4 results for them. They've got
Southampton,
four
Fulham,
points.
Leicester, Palace.
They've
But I
got
remember at the start of the season, we're talking about how they're not losing any games. Now they're not winning any games.
4 points from their 5 games they've played so far against what was the bottom five at start of play yesterday.
Oh,
Four
the home
points
games.
from
Yeah,
their five
yeah, yeah,
games.
yeah,
Yeah, but no, but even like drawing at Leicester and stuff.
yeah, yeah. So
So not they're not beating the worst team. So when you're with them, you think, well, I want to attack these fantasy assets like João Pedro, etc., because he's got great fixtures. You know, maybe that's not the case, which also means, yeah, well, maybe João Pedro will do better with some of these more difficult ones on paper coming up. I had no real concern about him, João Pedro. And I think largely whatever Brighton you have invested in, it's probably still hold at this moment. Then maybe there's a reassessment in game week 19. You might want to choose to move on. But I know we've mentioned about Jimenez offering obviously a solution for certain people this week. It wouldn't entertain my thoughts to move João Pedro to
Pedro to
Jimenez this
Jimenez,
week.
no. No, I feel like most people will have other fires to put out, and the figures are still okay. I mean, going to West Ham this weekend, come in for them is perfectly fine. Just hold that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Manchester derby, James. There are a few things from this that surprised me. Like just at the end of the game, if you'd have said to me, Manchester United will go to the Etihad and almost match City for possession amongst anything else, I would have been like, forget about it. That's not what happens. City dominate games with 60-70% possession, keep the ball side to side, kicking it around. If you said to me, United go to the Etihad and they'll have 3 big chances and Man City will have none, albeit they were all in the second half and you got to count the lateness of the chances, but still no big chances in the entire game for Manchester City. I'd have said, are you sure? And yeah. Now, I think I was just a random thought, like since this bad run has started for Manchester City, which has obviously started in the cup against you, but then all of the league results since, I think, is it 4 points in 7 league games or something like that for them now? I mean, West Ham have got more points during that. I mean, how many teams have got less points in the league during that period than Man City? I think it's hardly any.
That's my phone. Isn't it 8 defeats in 11 or something?
If you include all comps,
Yeah.
But I'm talking in the league, it's like a win and a draw in the last 7. It's
So
crazy.
we're like 6. Is it 6? No, 5 defeats
5 league
in
defeats.
8 in the league, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and like drawing at Palace in there, and yeah.
I mean, and this is your derby, and the manner of it, the late goal, the penalty and the late goal with Ahmad, who he's up to 5.1 now, 5.2 now. Sorry, James. He's been creeping up in price. I still think he offers good value at that price over like a Garnacho or something. If you had him there and you're rotating him in and out, it's great asset. Guardiola obviously pops up with the goal, and I was licking my lips for a 15-pointer off him, which didn't quite materialize. But it was a nice reminder that he is a great asset in this game. And if City can get into a run, I think he'll do well. 6.1. I've got no intention of coming off Guardiola. I think he'll just stay there, and he could keep chipping away. If it's a clean sheet 1 week, a goal another, then a blank, then the same again, I don't mind that off him.
You're going to score every other week, boss.
Well, listen, his goal record isn't bad, and his number of attempts isn't bad. When City finally hit some form, which might be 2026 at this rate, or when Pep is finally relieved of duty, maybe then that will be when I get more regular Guardiola returns. But I've got no intention of selling him at all, to be honest with you. There are eyes on Manchester United, though I'm not really sure where I'm going to go.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Josko Vardiola's centre back, by the way. Which I can't believe I'm saying that based on what we watched of him for
Well,
Croatia in the World Cup.
when I saw the lineup, I was kind of like, well, you've got three defenders in Walker, Diaz, Guardiola, and then you've kind of got a packed load bunch of midfielders: Bernardo, Gundogan, Nunes, De Bruyne, Foden, Doku. What is the setup here in the end?
In fairness, that in terms of his available defenders, those three are the only three available to him. I did think he might play Simpson Poozy in this because
Stones was on the bench, wasn't he?
yeah,
Not
but
fit enough to
he's been
start.
injured. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
I thought he might play the young lad because I think he suffered before that he had to play with Vardiol at
Mm.
Brighton. I think alongside Diaz possibly would have been better, and then Vardiol at left back would have been a better structure for City. They played Matthias Nunes at left back. We've got De Bruyne and Foden kind of both in the 10 positions, the kind of ideal scenario. So offensively, it looks like as strong as it could do, basically. Yeah, but without the ball, they are a disaster. And I mean that. Um, if anybody is not beyond this, the City's blip. How long's the blip going to? This isn't a blip. City are more likely to finish outside the top four than win this league. I've been saying that for a number of weeks. I'm sure they will still finish top four, subject to inquiry result. Because they're still definitely better than the other 16 odd teams, but they're going to lose more football matches. They are so bad off the ball. They have no legs. And when the manager is coming out after the game and saying, I can't find a solution, I'm not good enough. I don't quite know what message that sends to the rest of the players when immediately afterwards I then see a Phil Foden interview and he's saying, yeah, we're suffering for confidence. And do you know what? They're human beings. They've been all conquering. We've praised them. Yeah. They are struggling for confidence. Their legs are gone and now their confidence is gone. They'll probably get beat at Villa at the weekend.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Because Villa have been hit and miss themselves.
But Villa at Villa Park, if strategically, if Villa defend properly on transition, they're gonna do City.
We talked for ages about Game Week 18 being Haaland time with Everton, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich as those next five. I've got no interest in trying to break the structure of my team to get him in. Have you?
No, Haaland is only a conversation for me if Salah gets injured.
Yeah.
That's it. Even if Palmer gets injured, it's no conversation for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just think it's funny how earlier in the season we are like, okay, we're going hard on this, but come Game Week 18, we're all going to want to go back there. No one foresee this fall from grace for City at all.
And by the way, that creates opportunity for people who want to do different things. It doesn't mean don't go there or you can't go there. Quite clearly, over that 18 to 22 period, Erling Haaland could go mad. Of course, he's capable. And that is going to be an unbelievable captaincy. And that's the problem as well. You feel obliged to do it. Captaincy differential over that period. If anyone wants to take that route, good luck to them. And there's every chance it will go well. There is no need for me to break this structure because the other thing as well is I definitely know that come game week 23, that shit's getting reversed again and Haaland's going and I'm forcing back to Salah on that again.
Yep, agreed.
So it's 4 transfers involved over that period as well. That might be hits for people. And it's not that you can't do that sort of thing. I'm just not breaking my structure to put him in unless Mo Salah gets injured. If Salah gets injured, it's like, yeah, shit, I'm going to go and buy someone like Diallo and I'm going to put Haaland in. Cool. And we're going to do that for a few weeks and then we'll even still be reversing it back at some stage. So the problem with Haaland as well at the moment is you don't watch him and even want him.
No, exactly that. What about Man United? You've got no assets at the moment. I've got no assets at the moment. They're all right, to be fair.
What price did you say Diallo is?
5-2.
Right. If he's going to play that position that he played yesterday, that will probably end up in everyone's teams during this season. I know there's been a lot of talk recently about Enzo Fernandez and stuff like that. If Amad Diallo is going to play the position that he played yesterday, he will all want him.
I mean,
we should be very aware of that.
The bottom line is he's performing in a way that he can't be dropped. He's making himself undroppable from his performances.
He's ahead of Garnacho and Rashford and all them. Yeah.
And that's it. It's like ultimately, it's not like a flash in the pan. He's doing his talking on the pitch, and I think even Bruno Fernandes at 8.4 now. He's going to continue to tick along nicely for a while. If anyone wanted him as a kind of third or fourth midfielder, fourth if you're really
I
stretching, but
don't doubt
I
that
think
Bruno Fernandes will be consistent. I think I saw a stat that over maybe the last 6 game weeks or so, it might only be Salah's got more FPL points, maybe.
right.
So he has done. Might have been Palmer as well. I'm not sure, but he was right near the top, definitely. So if people have got that, they're going to be really pleased. He's been doing really well. I'm not going to buy Bruno Fernandes. I'm going to have Diallo for 3.2 cheaper.
Yeah, it's an alternative strategy though, isn't it? Because if you don't want to have that cheap player, because Bruno gives you a captaincy, a player that you're happy to put the armband on. Let's say that Southampton at home game, or if you're at the Wolves away game and you've got no other option, you want to captain Bruno. I don't think that's a bad shout. I don't think I'd ever see myself captaining Diallo. I'd feel that was too risky a player to have there. And Bruno's consistency with set pieces, right? Penalties and free kicks and stuff like that. It's a different proposition is Bruno Fernandes. You're not comparing. You likely have a different structure around that player. For me, if you had Ahmad and let's say Jota, who's closer in value to Bruno, or Bruno and a cheap player in Enzo Fernandez, I think I'd take the Jota Ahmad double up, for example. So, yeah, interesting to see. No defensive interest is there, particularly for Manchester United. They've still got some trickier fixtures coming up.
No, part of that is down to concerns, I think, in terms of selection. Like I'd mentioned to you, real interest in Lenny Yoro, if or when he got in the team, and I think he will do soon. By the way, I'd like to praise Matthias de Ligt for being really quick off the pitch when he gets substituted and his team's losing. Like I want to praise that because so many players don't do that. They played Matsurawi and Dallo as the wing backs. And here's the caveat to Diallo is you could still buy him and he play right wing back and that would be good for you. But the playing in the position he played yesterday would be incredible for you.
Yeah, it's a
And
big difference.
we also have to factor in here that we know that Garnacho and Rashford have kind of clearly been jettisoned out of yesterday. And that's important. Amrim, I thought his interviews were great yesterday, what I've seen of them anyway, where he spoke about like training this week, it wasn't to the level that I'd expect. He's sending a marker and a message out, and he's like, but I watched them train this morning. I'd already decided on the squad. He said today that they trained really well, and it's a new week now, and there's every chance they'll be involved, say on Thursday against my team in the Carabao Cup. So if you put Garnacho and Rashford back into that squad, there's a place there that's debatable in terms of where Diallo plays. Where I agree with you is his place in the team. I just don't think it's questionable at the moment.
It's just remember he's a young boy as well. You've got to take it easy. Like you can't be like flogging him week in week out. You've got to try and be careful as well. He's still a kid.
Also, I felt really sorry for Mason Mount. I just want to make a point of that. You could see how gutted he was when he went off injured. And this was obviously a chance for him selected in that position as one of them tens behind Hoyland. And you can see he was proper distraught. And I think in that moment I could see written on his face, I know what's coming here. It's going to be more abuse and Mount's let us down again. No player desires to be injured. It's frustrating. He's had over 2 years of this now. And that his face I thought was quite sad. Someone at United go and give him a cuddle today because that football club should be very happy. I watched the first half of this on my phone while I was eating Sunday dinner in a restaurant in Southampton with my dad. We walked to the ground. Sounds like we didn't miss a lot. And in the last 15, 20 minutes, I couldn't really believe what we're seeing from City in terms of how negative they were. They played like a team, and I understand it because there's a desperation for results now. But if you didn't know better, you wouldn't have thought you were watching City because they played like a team that was being negative and playing for a 1-0 win. And as soon as I mean, it's brain dead from Nunes on twice. What the bigger mistake is the foul rather than the back pass. The back pass is a bad error. The actual concession of the penalty is worse. And then once the equaliser happened, and I could see the way City was set, I think in your mind you think, right, it's United have equalised. United fans probably think, oh my God, we've got a point at the Etihad. You've got 5, 6 minutes now where City are going to throw the sink at you trying to win. And within 10, 15 seconds, I said to my dad, United are probably going to win this. But you could tell City couldn't change and
Yep.
start throwing back at United. They were like, well, we've been structured here to get a draw, to win the game, sorry. And we don't know how to change this back now without committing wide open. And they set off. And the finish from Diallo is incredible. And your phone's ringing.
No, it was the alarm going off actually, but yeah, all good. Well, we talked about that plenty. Let's talk about Chelsea 2, Brentford 1. Cole Palmer, captainers. I love it when people are fishing for bonus points towards the end of the game with
Okay.
Mbumo's goal, putting Palmer in, out, shake it all about. As a captain, I was like, look, bottom line is, even if he gets a bonus point or two, it's still a blank and a failure, albeit those points would have helped. Brian and Bomo, man, was that always that period around game week 14 when their fixtures get difficult, and in the lead up he was did nothing to justify sticking around, and now has picked up two double-digit returns in 2 weeks. Like his value's dropped down to 7.6 again. It hit 7.9, didn't it? I don't know if I would actually go back there because longer term their fixtures are still rough. But if people have held on, they're going to be super happy with that.
Yeah, conversation maybe to be had again around sort of game week 23-ish or so, maybe in terms of going back. I wouldn't go back. He's done great. I mean, I think he's scored since I bought Saka. I think Saka's got 8 points and Boomer's got 25.
Yep.
But there's always a risk whenever you sell a player who, penalty taker, potential talisman, etc. There's always a danger a player's going to do this sort of thing. That said, I mean, the returns in the 5 games prior to the Newcastle game weren't great.
No,
And
rubbish.
ultimately, Chelsea can see it's a shit goal from Chelsea's perspective. And obviously, in that position, you expect him to finish well because he's a really good finisher. But no, I wouldn't be rushing back to any Brentford assets at this stage. And I guess if you held Boomer or Vissa, you're not selling this week.
Yep.
Forest at home is a tricky fixture, but it's not I need to sell my assets fixture. There are still fixtures to come that might feel like that. That said, the home form has been incredible, although I'm tired of people talking about it because it's so obvious that they've had easy fixtures at home and terrible fixtures away. But they will certainly go into these difficult home fixtures that they've got. After Forest, it's Arsenal, City, and Liverpool at home in a row. They will go into those games with confidence. There's no doubt about that. So if people want to hold, that's fine. I think that the advice for people generally who'd maybe been in doubt was like hold if you're not sure if you want to do because you've still got good players there in Boomer and Viss. And I think for most people, it'd be hold this week. Don't think you're looking at anything defensive at the moment unless you're searching, you're holding on to Mark Flecken. For Chelsea, good result, very much in the race. Um, I note that Cole Palmer, I've only seen bits of this game, but just looking at heat maps, very much ends up into the left half space again. And there's a blank. He is so much more
Yep.
dangerous in that right half space
Yep.
where he can open his body to make the decisions however he wants. There is a little bit more restriction on him in that left half space. Cucurella sent off. So what I think that means is that against Chelsea, it will probably against Everton. Sorry, it probably will change back up where Palmer probably goes into that right half space because I think they'll either shove Fernandes into that left 10 position again, or they might even do what they've done in say the Liverpool Manchester United away games. I realise Everton's a very different opponent, but they might shove Gusto from left back into that really high position as well. So there's no alarm or concern there with Palmer, and I think Maresca has changed enough that we can't be certain whether it's right or left half space for Palmer. And it's not to put people off captaining him in any given week, but the read on when exactly this is going to happen, I think is still a little bit challenging at the moment. And any time that I thought it was going to be left half space, I'm just not as comfortable captaining him. I want him to play in that right half space for fantasy purposes.
You just can't predict when it's going to happen, though. That's the
Not at
thing.
this moment, no, because I wouldn't have seen that happening in this one.
Because
And
if you look
because,
at Enzo Fernandez's heat map, he's more on the right.
yeah,
Why? Like, what is it about Brentford or their setup that makes Enzo better on that? What? Just swap him around, surely.
it's no, it'll be what they again. I've not seen a lot of the games, so I don't want to just come off like I'm blagging this, but it'll be what they've wanted to do with the two fullbacks. So if you look at the difference between say Gusto and Cucurella's heat map, Cucurella I think is a bit more defensive than Gusto's. They've moved Gusto higher in. So because you're moving Gusto higher from the fullback position from the right hand side, you're
Yep.
therefore right. You don't want him to go into Palmer's zone, so you're asking Palmer to do the left. So essentially, what you want the inversion from Chelsea to probably be from the left.
Right.
That's probably what you want. But they have done it also where Casado's moved from right back to right six. They've moved Lavia from right six to left six, and then Fernandez from left six to left 10 to then allow Palmer to play right 10, which is basically what they did in the first half against Tottenham. Then that changed later in the game when they obviously pushed Cucurella really high, but then that still kept Palmer in the right side of 10. So, well, this all added in tells me that Maresca's got real flexibility in his strategic structure of what he's happy to do with his team. Also, maybe a note on this as well. Brentford like to go quite man to man, notoriously. So putting Palmer in a different zone to maybe what you expect pulls them out of position a little bit as well. For people looking at Nicholas Jackson, don't be put off.
2 more games to go. 3 more games to go, sorry, before he.
Don't be put off. I mean, look, he didn't get that intentional booking to miss the game against Southampton, so we know he's not going to intentionally get booked to miss Ipswich. Not to say he wouldn't get booked against Fulham, for example, but yeah, look, they're top of the fixture over the next five. If you want to forward at that value, it's absolutely perfectly reasonable. Would you go Jackson or Isak if you're buying new now?
Ooh. I'd go Isak. I'd go Isak, but my hope is as an Isak owner, because I could have made that move to Jackson last week, is that Jackson gets booked this week, serves his suspension, and then the Isak to Jackson move is there ready for me straight after. Like, I don't have long-term intention to hold Isak, and I want Jackson to be my off from Isak. Whether or not I'd bypass Isak and go straight to Jackson with that potential suspension, probably not. But we've seen it now for weeks after weeks where he's not getting that yellow card and he is getting points. So yeah, it's a hard one. I'd still go Isak because I think this fixture this week is good as well. But just in case he was to get suspended, you've got 2 games of Isak and then you can go to Jackson.
Yeah,
but it is tight.
I agree with you. I think the problem is as well to go Jackson to Isak might become difficult and also regrettable if, say, Jackson did get the yellow card. Whereas I think if you go the other way and you go Isak for Ipswich away, Villa at home, if you're not happy with it, you've missed Jackson against 2 strongest defences, and I include Everton in that,
Yep.
and Fulham being the other. And then you go, okay, right, now Isak's got a couple of more difficult away games, Newcastle away tax. Okay, maybe do I want to move to Jackson and then reassess my options? What I would say is I'm delighted I've got both. Because whichever one I didn't have, I'd be wanting to get personally.
Agreed. And let's wrap talking about Southampton 0, Spurs 5. I mean, as good as it is for Spurs, and you got to enjoy it, you kind of just feel like Southampton that bad. But the thing is, we didn't see it really. We thought that Southampton could hurt you guys with your defensive frailty. The fact that you've had more possession than them really does surprise me, because there's plenty of games where Southampton have dominated the ball and that's what they like to do, and they weren't able to do it. Or is it really a case of game state got so far away from them that they just down tools and had to give up being 3-0 down for 15 minutes?
I mean, it's kind of, we'll speak more to Matt on the podcast tomorrow. It does feel a little bit immaterial talking about Southampton and the fantasy impact when we have no idea what's about to happen next. Whatever happens next, it won't be as wide open as this. We've spoken recently about things like the draw at Brighton, being quite impressed with them. They lost only 1-0 at Aston Villa last week, right? We said there was improvements. Where they've really fallen down badly this year is when the pack of cards fall, they fall quite spectacularly. And that's dated back pretty much all through this season. So against Manchester United, they started the game really well. Cameron Archer missed a penalty. United scored. They fell apart. And from a period of going in the first half hour, you'd have gone, these deserve to be winning. By the end, you'd have gone, yeah, they've got beat 3-0 and deserve to get well beat. They lost. Bournemouth were 3-0 down at half time. Disastrous performance. Leicester folded like a pack of cards, were 2-0 up, lost 3-2. The Chelsea game, once you're out of sight against them, they're in danger. Let me tell you, everyone watching that game was sitting there at half time yesterday, even though it's super Spursy, thinking there is a chance here that Tottenham are going to get 10.
Mm-hmm. I was the same. I thought the same. Yep.
I'm a bit disappointed we didn't break our record for biggest away win. I completely understand this game. Now that's the game's won. We're going to stroll through it because remember, there's been so much criticism about Tottenham being professional recently and controlling games when you're in win advantage rather than going gung ho. But you did think, yeah, Tottenham might break the Premier League record here. That's how it felt at half time. I mean, I was thinking that after 15 minutes.
Mm.
Game was won. No, even despite how open we are, third and fifth choice centre back, right back playing. Make Jed Spence was great. First ever Premier League start for us. 18-year-old playing in the number six position. After 15 minutes, like, this game's won. No
Yep.
doubt about it. As soon as it goes bad for them, it goes really, really bad. They got their press so badly wrong in the game, and they were so easy to pick apart. And in the key moments, even around the penalty area, they're not decisive in terms of like simplistic things like getting blocks in or actually being committed in the challenge. I mean, the Kulusevski goal was so laughable. How you end up in that state, you wouldn't expect that from an under 11 team like in injury time, with like being 4-0 down. Then mind a Premier League team on a Sunday night. It's just it's so bad, and you have to remember that when you speak about Tottenham here and the fantasy stuff. And I'm well entitled to be pleased about last night, but felt like reporting bullying at half time, mate.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. It doesn't. Nothing that happened then also made me want to go and get any Spurs assets at the
No,
moment.
and I think
You've scored
actually,
5 goals and Solanke's picked up just an assist again.
yeah,
You've got Liverpool, then Forest away. We've seen what they
yeah,
can do, and then in amongst the two after that, you got Newcastle, Arsenal. There's nothing really that makes me want to get a Spurs asset. Porro owners, obviously, Porro dropped. Now you've got away with one here that he's had to come on, and
rested.
then and oh well, yeah, well, there are
Yeah,
some
it's
that are saying that
rested.
it is rested. There are some that say he should be dropped. Mind.
That's fine. There'll be his first choice. Don't doubt that.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But he's managed to sneak in by 2 minutes to pick up his clean sheet here. So that was a bit of a lucky touch. And you
I,
did call that. I
I,
don't think I want any Spurs. Madison as well is up to like fourth, fifth highest scoring midfielder or something now.
yeah, he's got like 11
Fifth.
attacking returns from 13 starts or something.
It's this the
But
double digit hauls. That's the thing. In amongst that, there's shitloads of blanks.
I don't even know, genuinely, I don't know if he's part of Tottenham's best 11 anymore. I mean that honestly. Like he can easily be Kulusevski at 10, Johnson out wide. Remember, no Benton called Bissouma in this setup yesterday either, right? So Madison's fantasy returns and actually the underlying numbers when he starts this year has been pretty good, but he doesn't hold the kind of minutes king like Kulusevski, to be honest, or like Bruno Fernandes as a different example. So no, I he's on 91 points. It's only 15 points behind Boomer and Saka, but no consideration. And I think you kind of nailed it at the start. This example, and we spoke about this after Tottenham beat Villa, I think, saying there will be other games like this for Tottenham where Tottenham get four and Solanke doesn't get a return like he had in the West Ham game. Just the Villa game that day, it went for him and he got two of the goals. And it feels like this could be any week where Tottenham would get four in a game and Son's done nothing, or this time Madison wasn't involved, or they're going to spread the goals. They're all going to do okay, but they're clearly going to spread it around. So Tottenham could win a game like this, and actually, most people reflect on it. There's a chance the majority of people listening to this don't have a Tottenham attacker. Did that hurt your rank last night?
No.
They're going to spread it around, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's where it's going to be. Solanke's going to get 12 to 15 goals. Son's going to get 10 goals. Madison's going to chip in. Kulusevski, Johnson, they're all going to chip in. And Tottenham are, by the way, definitely going to be investing in January because that was made very, very loud and clear last night that that's what needs to happen. More of that on Tottenham on Wednesday. So I think like Porro is a sell for me. The reason I didn't start him this week was a couple of things happened. So I definitely wanted to play Hall against Leicester because I knew it was a strong possibility of a clean sheet. That Leicester midfield situation kind of was definitive for me. I'm playing him. I didn't really want to play Ait-Nouri because they're so shit defensively. But it was still Ipswich at home, and Ipswich had lost the previous two games, scoring once in two home games. And he did obviously create the assist for Doherty, but it was more. I felt when I kind of reflected on Thursday night and then I thought about it on the train back from Glasgow on Friday, and I thought Porro and Udogie played all 90 here, which is fine. But then we've got Manchester United Thursday and Liverpool Sunday. If you think about what's ahead, not what's been, Ange's probably going to want those two players to play those two games,
Yep.
or at least he's going to rotate one of them. Certainly, you want the two of them to play against Liverpool, and he might have only wanted maybe at least one of them against Manchester United in the cup.
You might have
And then
lost one now.
when I thought about it, I thought there's a good chance that one of them's not going to start against Southampton. And I think it was kind of equal on Poru or Doggy. I predicted both to start, but I was quite clear on this on the deadline stream on Saturday. I was like, there's a good chance one of these two is not going to start. Ironically, Porro gets his return anyway off the bench, but the decision process was okay. Udogi, we think, is just tightness. So I would imagine, yeah, he probably doesn't start against Manchester United, but probably will be okay for the Liverpool game. Um, there were a few really good performers for Tottenham last night, obviously, but it was more some of the kind of more unheralded ones I was really pleased with. So Archie Gray, I thought was faultless. It was much better with him playing left-sided of Dragishin. Dragishin, I've told you, is a disaster as a left-sided centre back. If he's going to play, he's got to play right-sided. And for Archie, he's played basically across the last 4 or 5 games: left back, right back, left-sided centre back, right-sided centre back. Remarkable. He was faultless as left-sided centre back. I realised he was playing against pony opposition, and I must give a shout out to Fraser because this is the first game since Vicario got injured that I think he hasn't been our best player. He's been well in excess of my expectations, and I want to say sorry, Fraser, if you're listening. I tip my hat off to you. Q massive error, no doubt on Thursday night. It's not right. It does massively impact the way we play, but in terms of him, he's been not the disaster that I thought it was going to be. He's done all right, actually, in fairness, and actually, he's kind of, you could hear it last night in the ground. He's picking up a little bit of a kind of a cult figure status with the crowd at the moment now, which is nice as well. Like
Good, good,
the
good.
crowd knows shit, but he's doing quite well, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think all clubs have that kind of player where you know he's not quite really good enough, but you do, you do like
There's
him.
definitely nothing to be said about like getting on the backs of a goalkeeper ever. By the way, there's a note as well. We should have said this. Nick Pope is obviously out for the rest of the month for Newcastle. So as much as that's probably a line we should have put in about Hall,
Mm.
because Leicester was so wank going forward, it didn't matter. But that will be a blow for Newcastle in forthcoming games. It will hurt them in the same way this has hurt my team.
Cool, cool, cool. James, we've been through all of the games. We've obviously got Bournemouth, West Ham to cover off. As you said, you will talk about that on Wednesday with Clayton on the Clayton and James show. Wherever you're listening, make sure you're subscribed. I've got the notification bell rung so that you get notified when that goes live. I'm having a look at some of the questions that we've had in on Twitter here, James. Trying to summarize into maybe a few themes that are interesting. Guess what? One of them is Ryan Ait-Nouri replacements. Where would you go if you had to stick at the same value, didn't have money to go up?
Despite what I just said
Colwell
about
still?
Pope, I think Hall is a really good long-term investment.
Yep.
I've decided Colwell, but you need to factor in that I couldn't really consider Robinson. So I think Robinson kind of feels like it's pushing it a bit for me at 4.8, but that's reasonable. Colwell, there's no
Kirkes?
there's no reason to pay extra for a different Chelsea player. I think I don't mind Kirkes, but I think with Senesi now out for 3 to 4 months, there's probably won't be enough from him to justify going to him over Dean Huijsen. So I think Huijsen is fine. I also think wait a couple of weeks, and I think Palace defensive players might be really interesting. Munoz is obviously suspended this week, so that will slow down any investment he was getting. Whether you want to pay that much is questionable, but I think one of the three centre backs, maybe from Gameweek 19, would be interesting as well. There's loads to choose from, but also they are all much of a muchness. I actually, in a weird way, subject to who takes over at Southampton, I'd keep an eye on that because some of them players like Taylor Harwood Bellis and stuff, they're right, not like terrible footballers. I realise is they're highly likely going down and they're not good enough for this level. But individually, you have some decent players there, and if you put a bit more structure defensively, that's okay. We're not going to go madcap here. You might find they've got some good fixtures coming up. They wouldn't be the worst investment. I was looking at them maybe if I needed to flip a fast to a similar value anyway. So actually, in a bizarre way, the likes of Harwood Bellis and Bednarek may become interesting. Not to start regularly, but in terms of investment, that gets you money maybe for something else, right?
We have a question coming in from Andrew Holohan. Now, obviously, we know what's happening at Wolves, or we think we know what's happening at Wolves with Pereira. Will Southampton go for Gary O'Neill or go for a Moyes type appointment, in your opinion? Any rumours around where Saints are going to go?
I don't think Southampton prepared to sack Russell Martin yesterday. I think with Wolves, like I said, the noises last week was they didn't have anything lined up for Gary O'Neill, so they carried on. Then they've obviously pushed harder after Saturday because it was kind of position untenable. I get that. I think Southampton, I've decided probably 15 minutes into that football match last night enough. So I don't know if they're going to have anything lined up or not. I might be wrong. They might have been having talks in the background and might have been thinking this. I think that was the reaction in the ground, the reaction of the players, all of it mixed together was really too much. It, we were on the train going back when the news broke, and it was a shock. But when you step back, you're like, well, no, just lost 5-0 to Tottenham's A minus team, 3-0 down in 15 minutes, and we look vulnerable against anybody. No, it really shouldn't be a shock. Because all they had to do was invite us on and spring for attack. You know what they remind me of going forward?
Go on, tell me.
They reminded me a bit, you know, when you had your first snog when you was a kid,
Hmm.
and it was a bit awkward. You didn't really know where you put your tongue and stuff. That's what they remind me of when they're in front of goal. Like the build up's fine, but when it came to the moment, they're a bit, they're not right. Do you like that for an analogy? No, you didn't like that, did you?
Uh, yeah, probably not. Probably not. I have no intention of snogging Southampton's front line. So, yeah, probably not. There's one for the patrons to put into Snog, Marry, Avoid. Or
Yes,
Kill. It's
good
Snog,
one.
Marry, Kill, isn't it? That's the one. I don't even remember. Good, good, good. That's an interesting point to remind the patrons. We've got Q&A coming out for them later on today. James, anything else to add?
Yeah, can I take one from Blue Sky?
Yeah, of course.
This is from our friend the dude Morpheus. Says, what are some of your favourite examples of football karma? For example, since telling Arteta to stay humble, Haaland has scored 3 goals in 11 games, of which Manchester City have lost 5. Haven't they lost
Um,
more? Isn't it 8 in 11?
Yeah,
You
I
can
mean,
say
but maybe
5
league
league
games.
games.
Five
Yeah.
league games out of eight is what he's probably referring to. Or out of seven, is it?
I actually think Kyle Walker yesterday as well, because we didn't mention that. I want to see players banned for that.
Four.
Kyle Walker,
Oh,
you know, when him and Hoyland are going butt to butt,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah.
Hoyland doesn't even move his head forward or anything, and Walker goes down.
Mm,
Sorry, I want him suspended for that. I know he's not going to be,
yeah.
but we're not going to get away from people trying to cheat if there is no repercussions on something like that.
Hmm.
So, you can do that and say, well, if we can prove a VAR that you're feigning injury to try and deceive and cheat a referee, you're getting a ban. You will stop it happening. We have a tool that can stop things like diving, etc., etc., and we do not use it. It makes no sense to me. It would actually be some good from VAR, and we don't use it. It's beyond me.
Yeah. Football karma. Anything else, James?
Michy Batshuayi, do you remember when he kicked the ball against the post and it smacked him back in the face?
No,
That's
I
one.
don't remember
No, it
seeing
was
that. I'm going
against
to find
England.
that. I'm going to
Against
find that
England.
one.
2018. Who scored for Belgium? Was it Januzaj scored for Belgium? I can't remember now. But he picked the ball up and he went to like smack it back in the net or in the crowd. He smacked it against the post and it smashed him back in the face.
Nice.
Cracker.
I'm gonna just put out there a bit of Planet FPL karma, which I deserved when I said Antonio looked tired, and he went and fucking scored 4 goals, didn't he? The weekend after, it didn't lose us all of our listeners, thank God for that. But that was a classic example of a a bad call on a fantasy asset for sure. Though we've probably all got a few stories of those
Oh,
ones.
we do, boss. Just we
In
remember
the
yours best. That's all.
that will, yeah. I mean, 4 goals is a rare occurrence at any time. So yes, indeed. Good. Listeners, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Planet FPL. Like we said, we've got all of the content coming at you thick and fast for the rest of the week. But I hope you have a good one. Good luck to the Hammers tonight. Come on, we're going to beat Bournemouth in my dreams, and let's see. Yeah, back at you throughout the rest of the week. Stay safe. Look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Play it your way. Cue music, please, man child.